we have a lot of people is going to ask a lot of questions. So, Mike, you can introduce Turner.
Oh, sure. Well, so Turner and I met through the Seattle hockey scene when I was living up in Seattle, and I started working with the Everett Silvertips. I was on the youth hockey board, and we were building a tier 2 program. And then I kept bugging Gary, and I think Gary had the same idea, which is we should get Turner to come over and do the tier 1 stuff. So we got a chance to work together for a few years, and we've been friends ever since. So Turner, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Michael.
So for people that don't know, how did you, first of all, where did you play junior hockey?
I played my junior hockey in Seattle for the Thunderbirds from 88 to 92. I was drafted by Montreal in 90, and then I left here in 92. I went and played 2 years in the minors in Fredericton, and then off to Montreal to start my career in 94, I believe, for the first full year, the lockout year, the first lockout.
Oh, it was during the first lockout. Yeah, that was the beginning of, seems every 9 years we have a lockout now.
Yeah, we got to divide the money properly.
Over and over. So when you were in junior, and what was Seattle like to play? First of all, was that something that you knew before you went? Because where are you originally from? Are you from BC or are you from Alberta?
Yeah, I'm from Prince George, northern BC. So it's a little different now. It's not, it's not social media. It's not, it's not a plan per se that, oh, I'm going to play junior next year. You just played what was in front of you. You didn't really know. So I came to camp with no expectations to make the team, and I just happened to make it at 16. And phenomenal place to play. The old Mercer Arena. Anyone who's been there is a great rink that we had a great home ice advantage. And then year 2, we started playing games in the old Coliseum, which will now be the bones for the new NHL rink. But we played that in that rink and sold it out. We played about 6-7 times in the second year. So. Oh yeah, it was sold out. We would sell it out in junior. It was when we played those games. We had a good team the second year here.
Oh look, we got Mike Myers. You might remember Mike, which is Liam's dad. Mike, are you on a fishing boat right now? You like your beard, Turner.
It's COVID beard. It's not playoff beard. It's COVID beard.
COVID beard. So Mike Myers actually, Frenchie, for his son Liam played for me at 13 and 14. And then I think he played for you at 16?
Yeah, 16 and 18, yeah.
16, 18.
Around there, so.
Oh, you're not on a boat. Okay, I think he's saying he's not on a boat. Yarmo, we got Yarmo coming in from Finland, so that's awesome. So the Coliseum became Key Arena, so it's the same building, and now it's going to be the new Climate Change Arena, which is interesting. So how many seats were there? Was it like 12,000 then?
The original Coliseum, yeah, something like that, or between 11 and 12,000 for hockey. So it was a great rink. It was a very good rink for especially for junior hockey at that age. Playing in front of that many people was something new to all of us.
So for people that maybe aren't familiar with, the Canadian Hockey League is like 3 leagues. It's the Western, the Quebec, and the Ontario League. Seattle plays in the Western League still to this day, although they have a new arena called Showware, which is pretty fancy. Typically, like the top teams are getting 6,000 to 8,000 fans. Like that's unusual. Most are like kind of 4 or 5.
Yeah, the new ones are Everett, I think, 7,500. They're great. They're great rinks for junior hockey. They're perfect size.
So to get 12,000, that's crazy. That's an amazing.
Well, the crazier one was, I think, my last year, the Tacoma Rockets started a team, and they played in the Tacoma Dome, and before they moved to Kelowna, and I think we have their junior record in the game is like 22 or 24,000 people. They filled up with Seattle versus Tacoma. So.
Wow,
but not a great game to watch hockey in.
Mr. Ewell, the owner of the Everett Silvertips, would be absolutely thrilled with that, wouldn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
That would be crazy. So you played 4 years with Seattle?
Yeah, 4 years. You're from 88 to 92.
And then you were mentioning you got drafted, and then you played in the AHL in Fredericton. What was Fredericton like?
Fredericton is a good place to visit. No, actually, it's a great community. It is there's a lot of snow, ton of snow in the winter time, but it is a good little community for hockey in the American League. And now a lot of those teams, Cape Breton, Halifax, all those teams they're part of the Quebec Junior League. Now a lot of those teams host those teams. So it was a lot of fun, and all the Canadian teams had their minor league teams in the Maritimes. So Edmonton would be in Cape Breton, Calgary, Montreal, St. John Flames, and then St. John Leafs out in Newfoundland. So it was a lot of fun playing against those teams, and it's a great experience. Montreal does a great job, or did a great job back then, of putting all the players in the minors and earning your way onto the team, and it makes you, at least it did for me, respect the game and how hard it is to stay in the NHL. And those are lessons that served me well in my pro career moving on to the NHL.
Were there any players that we would recognize that you played with in the AHL before you made the NHL?
Oh boy, there's a lot of like the Stanley Cup team that they won in 92, 93, like John LeClaire was up and down then, Paul DiPietro, Sean Hill, Donald Dufresne when I first started, all those guys. And then later on, the lockout year, you'd have Darcy Tucker played on that team, Val Berry played on that team, David Wilkie played on that team. Oh, there's a ton of kids. A lot of guys went through there before they went to the NHL.
I forgot about Val. Like so Val's son played for, I don't know if did he play for you or Turner or Jason?
He played for me 2 years ago.
Played for you so Val Bury, which is Pavel Bury's brother, as Frenchie probably knows very well.
I don't want to be mean here, but that's the last time we got the Stanley Cup.
93.
Correct. Yep, 1992. That was the last time, and I was at those games. It was because I was all the guys out of the minors. I think there was six of us.
You played one game during that year.
Did you?
Yeah. I played one game, and then a couple the following year. But for the Stanley Cup run, they have the extra players, as they always do, even today. And I think I was one of like 6 guys, and it was brutal. Meaning it was great. We got to watch. We got to watch the NHL games when they were there in the old Forum, but we practiced together, the 5 or 6 guys. Jacques Lemaire was on the ice with us. Andre Boudreau was on the ice with us, and we got skated every day, every single day we did it for like 2.5 months. You go on, can someone win this cup already so we can go home?
As they kept skating, yeah.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Did you participate to the parade?
No, it wasn't. It's not. It wasn't like I see different teams do it differently over the years. Even when I won with the Devils, the minor league kids didn't participate like they do. Some teams do that. I watch where they're minor league guys that are a part of it. They come on the ice and participate. We didn't. We went to the end, and then when the Canadiens went back-to-back overtime wins in LA, Leclerc scored both of them. They sent us home. We were in Montreal, and that was after they went up. We didn't even get to watch the final game there. It said, well, thanks for the 2.5 months, and you guys are on your way. And we started driving home. So I drove across country with my dogs right after that game.
Yeah, I was at the parade in 93 over there. I have like over 1 million people in the street, and it was a great team. And then after that, you're coming up, and then you got that saga, Mario Tremblay and Patrick Roy, 94, 95, and all again, Surgeon, Danforth, everything like that. And then they go down after that.
So
it was an interesting argument, to say the least. But it was the Patrick Roy thing was interesting, but in the past, him and Mario, they had a little bit of a disagreement, and I think it got a little escalated quicker than it should have. But it was unfortunate, definitely unfortunate for us, because obviously losing one of the greatest goaltenders who's ever played the game.
So for people who maybe don't remember, this was when Patrick Roy was, like, first of all, the god in Montreal, probably the best goal in the NHL at the time. and he was left in for quite a few goals by the coach Mario Tremblay, and he wasn't too thrilled with it.
Yeah. No, and we felt uncomfortable, me and the team, and then so were the assistant coaches like, all right, Mario, what the hell are you doing here? And then it got to a point, and then Patrick, he made a save late in the game after the score was way out of hand, and the whole crowd started cheering. And like I said, then it just escalated. And then, of course, with the old form, the owners sit right behind you, like or even the fans do as well. Even on the side of the bench, there's no separation. It was actually pretty cool. That was neat. Even in the old Maple Leaf Gardens, that's how it was for. The fans would sit right next to the players, something that would never happen today. But then Patrick walks by Mr. Corey and says something to him, and like I said, I don't think if that situation was there or if it could have got to the dressing room, it would have been diffused or handled a different way, but it wasn't. And like I said, tough for us, meaning the Canadiens. Good for the Colorado Avalanche.
So this began the whole era of like he was kind of like a final piece, right?
Yeah,
for Colorado to win cups.
Yeah,
we have a story behind this here. Remember, like Patrick Roy was represented by Pierre Lacroix when he was young, and the connection came from that part of there. And many times, remember what Quebec said, we should have Patrick Roy because the connection was there. But you have two people that, if you know Mario Tremblay, won the Stanley Cup many years in 1974, and his temper is almost like Patrick Roy. At the end of the day, it's two guys want to win, but two bad head. And that's happening. And it was like 10-2, I remember, against Detroit Red Wings.
Was that what it was?
Score. Yep.
I knew it was like 8 or 9 goals. It was crazy.
Oh, that was 9-0. It was something ridiculous before. And then Yvonne Cornway and Steve Shutt were our assistant coaches, and they just finally hey, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? So
normally you're going to put that 4 or 5 goals. Like that's pretty normal.
Yes.
Were they butting heads before, or did he just not think?
Yeah, did I remember a little bit? Like it was a weird, like the whole transition, just because Serge Savard is the GM, and Serge Savard is phenomenal. He's all the guys they had, and with Demers and Serge there, they just won the cup 2 previous years. So much like you said, with the firing of the Rangers thing last night, it was exactly kind of like that. It was they cleaned house. Mr. Corey did, and then brought in Réjean Houle and Mario hadn't coached before.
Right.
He was on the radio, and Réjean was working in the office, the front office, or the part of the old timers, the alumni stuff, and they were named the GM and the head coach, like it wasn't an interview process or anyone normal. I don't want to say normal, that's not the right word. They obviously have a huge hockey background, winning Stanley Cups in the 70s and stuff, but as far as coaching and executive stuff, they didn't have the experience. And this all happened within like a 24-hour period. It was really weird. And then we had to play, we had to go about our business. So then once that happened, then then it started to escalate over a couple weeks once they became coach. And then once that happened, like the whole situation and the arguments, then it went to DEFCON 5, and that game, it was all kind of just a perfect storm.
Crazy.
Frenchie's not wrong either. Mario's famous temper was good. I always I love Mario. I think he's a great man. And he's passionate. He cares. He cares about the Montreal Canadiens. He cares. He wants the Montreal Canadiens to win. But he'd go on his tirades, and he'd go half French and half English in his rants, and they were classic. So he even the French guys didn't even know what he was talking about half the time when he would get going. So.
Yeah, he's from North. He's from North. He live in the Chicoutimi area, and called the Bleuet in French. So it's like, like the guy was just like, I feel like some coach like him or the temper like him, because he's so excited and he's want everything so quick. It's hard to be a great head coach. They are better as an assistant coach. He did very well with the Minnesota Wild with Jacques Lemaire, and he was really buddy with Jacques Lemaire. And at the end of the day, you're right. He is so much a great human being. He's still in the radio, right, on TV in Montreal, and the guy is just phenomenal, great communicator. But again, his temper is like he switched.
Yeah, and
So
that's the way he played. That's the way he played when he played in the '70s. So
Yep. We have a lot of questions,
yeah, we
Michael. I
do.
don't know if you want to jump everybody. I think we have a lot of people here, Jamo, NHL, and Kaken, and Michael, and we have more. So if you want to go through this and
Sure. Yeah, I think the first question comes from NHL Hockey Reports, and he's got a YouTube channel. He asks, "What's your favorite part of being a Hab?"
well, I loved Montreal. I think I watch games today. Obviously, there's more social media and even broadcasts, but Montreal was like that. 25, 30 years ago when I played, when everyone covered the team. They still do. And it's a great place. And as Frenchie said, you see the passion and like when they did win, you see those pictures of 1 million people showing up. And I was fortunate enough to win in New Jersey when I went there. And not that it's not special to win everywhere. It is truly special to win, but not just Montreal, but any Canadian team. And the pressure I didn't see it as that. I saw it as an honor to play there, and I still do. And the cool part was growing up, I was a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. That was my team. You either like the Leafs or you like the Canadiens, and I loved the Canadiens growing up. And then the cool part for me is that even when I went on to New Jersey was all the interactions I had with the great coaches. Like Jacques Lemaire was with us in Fredericton in the minors. And then I got to be with him in New Jersey later on. But then guys like Larry Robinson and Mario, Yvonne Cornway, Steve Shutt, all these, truly special men, and they are great men, and they were great coaches. So it was Jacques Leperrier, same thing. I had him both in Montreal and in New Jersey, and what a terrific man and a great hockey mind. He did a lot of great things for those teams. So it was a lot of fun, and it was also like I said, when you get to put that shirt on, it's truly special. And anybody who gets either they start their career or play anytime when you get to, in my opinion, get to put on the Montreal Canadiens jersey. And I think a lot of guys say the same thing about putting on any original 6 jersey. I think it's really special.
It's funny because I coached the Toronto Junior Canadiens with Joe Quinn one year, and we had a really good team. We won the championship in the GTHL, but it's just in Toronto, right? And we went to Gatineau, which I think in that day was called Hull. And of course, we had the jerseys. They packed 1,100 people in this little arena to see us chanting "Go Habs Go" because we had the passion was crazy. We were just some Toronto team, right? Like,
yeah. And then when we traveled Canada, it was like playing for the Yankees, and it still is. Like when we would go to Vancouver, and I'm from BC, so when you play the Canadian teams, Toronto, and then when you come to Edmonton, Calgary, and Winnipeg was in the league when I played then, it's half and half. It's more, it's almost a home game when you play in Vancouver and or Edmonton, and you go outside after at the Saddle Dome, and you'd walk to the bus, and there'd be thousands of people waiting there for you to sign autographs and stuff. So it's like I said, it's truly a Canadian team. And a lot of people cheer for them. So it was those things are really cool about playing for that team.
after Turner, you said you remember more the St. Catherine Street and the Grayson Street over there.
Well, the odd time we would go out there, yes, but it's and that's part of the culture. Like it's part of. Until my last year, moving out of the city, I lived, just down the hill. We lived in a bunch of us did right near Bell Center now, when it was originally named the Molson Center. So it was always, we did a lot of fun, and but also, hockey's business. Like we did, we would have a good time, but we took it very seriously. Obviously, you have to. That's your job. But no, it wasn't as much as partying as it was of just the nightlife. I want to say restaurant wise and going out. It's still my favorite restaurants are Da Vinci's and Coup Cheval. There, the steak play. Just phenomenal, great restaurants that I still send anybody out here on the West Coast that Microsoft friends of mine that go for business and everything. I make sure everyone, and they ask where to go, we send them to the good restaurants because the food in Montreal is phenomenal.
It's so good. I love that city.
Great
if
city.
I ever had to go back, I would live in Montreal for sure. Jarmo, who's from Finland, says in '92 you played for Canada at the World Junior Championship, and what was your experience like with that?
Well, it's a running joke in my house every year because when the World Juniors won, I got 3 boys, and whatever year Canada or the U.S. is doing great, that's the team they decide to pick, or where they decide what country they're from. So when Canada's good, they think Canadian, which they're not. Even though they're dual, you're not on my team. Quit cheering for us. So they're American, and but my experience was we obviously underachieve. We had a great team. Like even so on when that comes on and Canada doesn't do well, they always tease me how we did, and we finished like 5th or 6th. It wasn't good. We just didn't come together as a team.
Oh,
But
no.
then when you run through the roster, like our defenseman is Hall of Fame defense. We had Scott Niemeyer, Daryl Sador, Carl Dykos, Jason Culliver, D on that team. Trevor Kidd was the goalie. John Slaney was on that team, and then we had Eric Lindros, Paul Correa, Martin Lapointe, Patrick Poulin. So we had a great team. It just didn't come together in a short period of time. And back then it was the round robin. So once if you lost a game or tied a game, it was out. But then, as I was joking around with them one year, I did this a couple of years ago. Russia won it, and then I'm looking through their roster, and then I don't feel so bad anymore. They have like Zubov and Kasparaitis and Habby Bulin's in net, and they've got Yashin and they've got Kovalev. So all pretty good NHL players. So I'm not too upset that we didn't do too well. But a great experience playing for the country. We got to play in Germany, Fussen, Germany, when they made their new hockey training center. So it was a great experience for someone from northern BC who had never left the country before to go all the way over to Germany. So
I think I was going to ask if this was the year, and I guess it was, because there was a lot of hype around Eric Lindros at the time. And then for them, the team to finish 6th or 5th, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stories going around about the flu and all these other things. Do you think it was any of that, or was it just?
No, I love the Big E. I always anybody who's in my era. I think Eric, he was going through. That's when he was in Quebec or drafted by Quebec. I'm not sure I don't think he was the whole trade happened yet. With him going to Philly, it was right around that time because I know he was playing for the Canadian national team. He wouldn't go to Quebec or wouldn't sign with them, and I don't think he went back to junior. So then this, I believe, was already his 3rd World Junior. Like he had already played at 16 and 17. He'd play and even played in the Canada Cup, was about to for Canada a year later. So he changed the game, and anybody who all the players today. I saw a crazy stat one time, I think in 92 or 93, right around this time. And this just shows how much money that used to be, before all the salary cap came in, that there was only like 3 or 4 guys in the entire league making over $1 million. And this is in the early 90s. Gretzky, Lemieux, and Yzerman. And then when Lindros came in and made this trade happen, or came into Philly and signed his big deal, I think it did. I don't think it changed hockey forever. And a lot of us were able to make, and a lot of the kids today make a lot of great money. And Eric Lindros is a big part of the start of that. So anytime I see Eric, which isn't very often, I haven't seen him in a long time, but I would definitely buy him a beer for helping change the game.
NHL had a couple other questions. One is, what was your initial reaction to being drafted by the Habs, and did you expect them to pick you?
My initial reaction, I was thrilled, and no, I didn't expect them to pick me. I didn't think it was. I didn't interview with them or talk as much as I did with teams. I wasn't rated to go as high as I did, but I was thrilled once that happened, and my family was thrilled. Obviously, they're Montreal Canadiens fans as well. So I always tell it, even now that I coach young kids. The draft is it's an interesting day because obviously, especially when you're drafted in the first round. For every team, you're always looked upon for the rest of the time of what they've done. There's a lot of guys that are drafted in the first round that never play, and there's a lot of guys that don't pan out or play a lot of games in the NHL. So once I learned that, I learned it about 2 or 3 years later, trying to get prepared for playing pro. Because the draft's just a day. It really is. Yes, it's a higher pick or the 20th pick or whatever. It's what you do after that and how you go about your business to prepare yourself for pro. No different than kids being drafted in junior now. Just because you're drafted, out of Bantams, you're a young kid. No one knows how that's going to turn out. So the initial reaction was I was thrilled, but as I learned going on and trying to make the teams years later, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the first pick, the last pick, free agent. It's what's your capabilities in order to play on the team, to make the team a successful team.
That's a great question, Turner. I'm involved with hockey for over 30 years. We talk that, and I think you're really humble here. I'm very impressed because you had a 12 overall pick in 1990. You have amazing, great players on that first round pick. You have only 2 players didn't make it. Michael Stewart, one of them. But to be 12, just behind Yager and Fun Martin brother, and the career you got, it's just for me, it's like 4 years, not big deal, but it's impressive for being honest with you. If you look to your record, what you did in NHL is amazing. He was recognized like, a guy, strong, hard, play hard every time. I just want to be honest with you. I'm really amazing by the fact you are really humble about the fact you're number 12 overall pick. That's a big, at that time, hockey was so many great hockey player. Think about the first round pick of that draft first round. Amazing.
That draft was insane. That was the Owen Nolan year, right, where he went first overall. But then you had Nedved, and then it was Keith Primo and Mike Ricci in that draft.
Yep, Keith Primo, Mike Ricci.
And then the big surprise was Pittsburgh took Yager. And I think in those days it was questionable whether he would come over just because of the Iron Curtain, right?
Yeah, he was number 5 in the draft. You got Nolan, Nedved, Primo, Ricci, Yager, and then Scott Season never make it, and then you have Sider, Daryl Sutter, Asher, Stanley, Trevor Kidd before Turner.
Was Keith Tkachuk in that draft?
Yep.
And I think he went quite late, right, to Winnipeg. So
that was after, a couple picks after I did in Winnipeg.
That's like one of the greatest drafts ever. I mean, that was crazy when you start looking at it.
Yeah, and then it all depends also. Like you look, I didn't win in Montreal. It came a year later. But also a lot of those great players who never won. They played, that were there. So I had a chance to do that, be in 2 finals and play in them. So those are huge successes as far as me, looking at a career, successes in a career. That doesn't mean those other guys' careers weren't final. I don't think a championship defines your career. I think longevity does. And I was fortunate enough to do it for a long time.
Jarmo was wondering if you played with Saku Koivu.
Absolutely, I did. One of the still great friends. One of my he's back in Finland now. That's one of my true friends in this game. I saw Koivu his whole cancer thing. I was already in New Jersey by then. I came and visited him in the hospital before the night before we played the 1 year where he was when he first got sick, when he was doing his chemo. But he came when we were both, it was kind of him, myself, Brian Savage. We all kind of started our careers at the same time in the early 90s, the couple years after they won the cup. So a terrific hockey player, obviously one of the best Montreal Canadiens as far as what he did for the community, what he's went through, and what he went through. Just it wasn't even not just the cancer stuff. He blew his knee out a couple years before that. All the massive injuries that he had, but one of the true great players, and even a better human being that I've ever came across playing this game for sure.
Michael Turner got Columbus during the expansion in 2000. He got claimed by the Columbus Blue Jacket, but he never played with them.
Oh, that's crazy, yeah.
Then he got
Yeah,
traded
no,
to
that
New
was
Jersey.
that's right. That was so Lou Lamoriello and his how Lou always does things. His shady dealings, or if you call him that, had a deal worked out already that I would be taken, and I knew that the day of. That I was going to be taken. However, my agent told me, don't pack your bags because that's not where you're going. I can't tell you where you're going. And I don't know if that was any rules violations or anything, but he said, I'll tell you once we're allowed to do that, but you're not going to Columbus. You're going to be taken, and then you're going to be traded to another team. So I'll let you know when that happens. I was fortunate enough that it was New Jersey. So.
Yeah, he got traded again. Christophe Oliwa, where he's involved with hockey junior and USA, everything like that. So in 2000, that's crazy. And then that's where you win the Stanley Cup after that couple of years with Pat Burns in 2003, where that team was packed. Like you talk about Scott Niedermayer and all those guys.
Any team that wins has good player. Like the fun, I don't want to say funny part, the following the first year I got there, the team was actually better, like as far as talent. So when I got traded there, they had just won and beat Dallas in the final, and then that following year we played the Avalanche in the final. We reached the final and played the Avalanche and lost in 7 games, had a chance to win it at home. We were up 3-2 at home. We didn't win game 6 and we went on the road and lost. That goes back to your Patrick Waugh story of being traded, and then it would have been around 94, 95, and then 4 years later, I'm facing him in the finals.
So this is not the season you won. You won in.
That's the team. That's the team we lost. That was a great team.
Lost in the final. But some amazing players. One of my favorite, McGillney. What was it like playing?
Awesome. All the Russian guys that I've came across that we've had. You watch some of the documentaries on the Russia 5 and all the guys that played and for Detroit. Well, I was fortunate enough to play a lot of those and get coached by them. Slavo Fetisov was the coach on that team, and the assistant coach with Larry.
Oh, wow.
Great. A lot of the drills that I still see today that I do with younger kids is a lot of stuff that Russian and stuff that we would do at practice. Sergei Brilin, Alex McGillney, Sergei Nemchinov, all phenomenal Russians. And Alex is such a special talent, one of the best Russians as far as pure goal scorers. And then a couple years later, my last year playing in New Jersey, Larry Onoff signed as a free agent there. All great players, but even better men. They're great guys. You can see why they're successful in winning and a championship caliber player. But they're great men. They're great human beings. They treat everybody with respect and everything. But Elmo was a great player, probably one of the best top 5 Russians in my opinion.
So was this the year that you guys won the cup?
Squirrel, yeah.
Yeah, Pat Burns year, right?
That was a good team. That was a good team too.
It's such a weird thing because I think the one thing that always struck me about this team is that the leading scorer, Elias, only had 57 points that year. It wasn't like and I
Yeah,
forgot that Joe Nieuwendyk was on your team.
yeah. So that kind of and always trades happen, and it stinks when trades do happen because you lose good friends. Jason Arnott is a great, good man as well, and Randy McKay, they were great teammates. They got traded to Dallas, but that really changed the organization for a couple of years because not only after we won and then I was gone, Jamie Langenbrunner got traded in that trade, and that he was basically the face of the franchise for a long time, became the captain. Joe Nieuwendyk, obviously a Hall of Famer, and Joe, went on to score his 500th goal, in a Devils uniform. But those two guys really, really solidified the team after coming over. And then we got Tverdovsky as well. He got traded for Jeffries, and so Lou's always very good at that. Even though we were a championship quality team already with those guys, he makes these little tweaks to make the team even better. So, it wasn't a matter of, obviously Patrick's got phenomenal talent, Scott Gomez. It's not a matter of we play a defensive brand of hockey. It was just for the first little while, it was if you talk to those guys, it was headbutting with Pat when he first came here. I remember I always joke with Scott Gomez when we do these kind of talks is. 'Cause I had Pat in Montreal, but when I was first couple of years, when I only played a couple of games every time, and I knew Pat from Montreal, so I knew what was coming, how hard his practices are and how demanding he is. And, Scott Gomez thought this was going to be a cakewalk. And I said, well, Scott, he doesn't let you have pucks to start practice and all these things like there, you're skating first. And Scott, whatever, I'll do what I kind of want. So they kind of butted heads to start that whole process, and Patrick kind of went through the same thing with him until Pat, but Pat wasn't as bad as he was in Montreal, meaning demanding and everything. He had changed a little bit, but his expectations didn't. And once that kind of got settled out between them, and it took the better part of the season. It took half a season, and then once it got clicking. Then we were well on our way, and we got things rolling. So.
One more thing on that one, it's not happening anymore, but Martin Brodeur, 73 games that year.
Crazy.
If you think about that, you know what I mean? Like, it's not happening anymore. Like, over 70 game, it's no goalie does this.
No, and I you look at all of his stats, that's the norm for him. He did it. Not only was arguably the best goalie ever. He did that every year. He would play, and you look at his years. He would play 70, 80 games, like you said, out of the 80 games. So the longevity until that 1 year, I think just after that, as we got up there, he got hurt. He hurt his shoulder or his arm, something like that. But other than that, his longevity and even how the game's played today, just you see the goalies and the demand and the nutrition and all the training and everything and how they play. Like a lot of them go down, it's more butterfly. It's a lot more strenuous on their hips. You see a lot of guys having labrum tears and having surgery. So he didn't play that way. He was, he obviously he went down, but he was a reactionary goaltender. Like he went off instinct, and that's what made him so great. But he didn't play that way where he was down all the time. But and he was, he was in good shape. And the funny part about Marty too is you don't realize how big he is. Like he's my size. Like he's a big man and a very athletic goaltender. So
wow, yeah, I never realized. I mean, he always looks big, but I didn't realize I always forget he's 6'2".
Yeah, he was young. At young age, he was big too. I was with Saint Hyacinthe when he was there at QM, and he was already big over there. And you can see he plays so many games. He was a good, again, he was a special talent. You see this at 17, 18 years old. He was very special.
We do have some questions. I'm going to take this off. One was, what was one of the most memorable? He referenced the Habs. What was one of the most memorable Habs goals in the playoffs you scored? And maybe just say goals as well.
Well, the playoff ones were the playoff ones where we had a pretty good run against the year Buffalo went to the final. One of my last years there in '99, I had 2 goals in one game against Hasek in that series, or I had 3, but I had one in Buffalo in that series, and I always joke that I didn't score a ton of goals, but my goals were always against some of the best goalies of all time. If I could just do that against the average goalies, what could have happened? But those are memories that I have as far as the cool part. And when you brought up Montreal before, even that's the year we beat Pittsburgh in the first round. Then we went on to Buffalo, and I think we lost in 5 or 6 games. But just to get in the playoffs and have that experience of playing in the playoffs in Montreal, it's awesome. The game days and the build up to the game, the whole city's, whether it's the first round or the final, there's electricity there. It's just a different, vibe, and it was awesome to be a part of. I still remember and have the same the feelings, way later on in my life of remembering what that's like, and that's the cool part of getting to play professional hockey is you get to remember stuff like that. And you wish you could pass that on, or other people could have that feeling, of what those times are like, because it is remarkable.
Were you on the ice or the bench when Marty Brodeur scored his goals?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good question. In junior hockey, I got scored on against Olaf Kolzig and Chris Osgood, and in Montreal, I got scored on against Marty Brodeur. So I wasn't on the ice. I think in junior I may have been. So I think I've been scored on 3 times. I've seen goalies score. And yes, we were in Montreal, so we played the Devils that one year. And that's I believe the year they won the cup or just after. And they beat us like in 5 games. And he had a goal against us. So him and I have become great friends as well. I knew Marty because his dad was the photographer for the Canadiens, and the Expos. When it's funny we're talking about the Expos, a lot of these people who are on this won't even know who the Expos are. But his dad was the photographer. He's got phenomenal pictures. Well, he did my pictures at the draft. So with my family, everything's working for the Canadiens. Well, we're doing it all, setting up and everything. And this is the first time I met Marty, because then we're getting ready to do all these pictures with all the Hall of Famers, all the different guys in Montreal's, draft room. And the Devils take Marty, whatever, 17th or 19th, whatever he was drafted that year. And so we had to stop everything. I go, thanks, Marty. I joke with him later that, and it takes like an hour before Marty's dad comes back so we can finish this. So we're sitting around, and he brought Marty with him, and that's the first time I met him. And so we kind of formed a little bit of a friendship, not much just there. And then once I got playing, I always joke, because like I said, once I do play on the Devils, we became really good friends. And that was my first goal in the NHL. And then my last year when I played in Philadelphia, that was my last goal. So I get to have that on him and everything. It's not a bad record to have as your first and last goals against Marty Brodeur. So
his brother playing baseball, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Claude Brodeur. Oh, by the way, you're famous, but I'm famous too, but you never knew about that one. But I was mascot professional for the Montreal Expos UP for 7 years. So
Yeah, nice.
maybe I crossed you at the stadium, but you never know it was me.
Yeah. Well, I didn't cross you because it was too big. You were at the other end of, you're about 5 miles away, because that place was so big to watch a baseball game.
Yeah, not many people.
Did it ever fall apart finally? Like, we were waiting for that stadium to fall apart, right?
Still on. He's still up.
Is it? Oh my God. Keegan had a kind of, and you'd mentioned you'd gone up to Spoke for your baseline tests. Keegan was asking about the health risks of playing hockey, and he'd referenced the class action for denying concussion related health. I don't know if you want to touch on that, or if that's.
Well, I think there's risk in anything, and I think they, as far as what the, you see the incidents that happened here the last couple of days with the Rangers and the Capitals. they're trying their best to protect the players. It's a different game. There's not as much fighting as there was when I played, but that's not really I think the issue of today's game. It's almost like football as well. These guys today, when I played, there was guys of my size, couple on each team. Now that's the norm, and even bigger, and not just bigger,
They can play.
but how and fast, and how big nutrition is, and like these guys are finely tuned machines. Like when we played, I always joke, I call it where when you're a professional athlete, you're a Ferrari. When we played, they were putting sugar in the gas tank. That's what I kind of we were doing things, but not nutrition. Now today, these kids are running on high octane fuel. They're treated right. They have chefs in there. Like when I went back to the Devils in their new building, they have chefs. They're eating right things, all their protein, all their nutrition. They sleep in hyperbaric chambers. They're all
Wow,
the,
really?
oh, it's crazy. Guys fly their food in, and then all the training. And that's what you look at great players like Crosby and all these different
That's how they keep
phenomenal
going.
players that are playing. It's how well they take care of their bodies, and that's when you put that on the ice and how quick they can move now. When those two things collide, and when guys are running into each other, it's the speed is quicker, so that you don't have to be a big guy. I think the impacts are a lot greater in today's game than they were when we played.
This fellow well. He says, "What do you think the future of Tier 1 hockey in the Seattle Sound area is, especially with the NHL coming to the area? You're pretty big there. You coach is it the North Stars? Is that what they're called this year?
Yeah.
The North Star team." And he was asking about, will there be a junior Kraken type program? Do you think? And
I think that's up to them. Yeah, I think they're going to start. I don't know if they'll start Tier 1 right away. If they go off the model of the other cities that have done this, meaning Dallas, how successful the Dallas Stars are, the Phoenix Coyotes, all the teams in California. Vegas, if you go off of that model, this is going to be their first year at Tier 1 at the youth level. So they, build their numbers up first, and then we're going to put on the Tier 1 program. This is the first year. So what is this, year 3 or 4 for them?
Yeah.
I would see something, a model like that. But whether they get into it right away, whether they get into it at all, like you look at a city like Colorado, where the Avalanche don't have Tier 1 per se. Like they leave that to the Colorado Thunderbirds that are, and the Rough Riders in that area that are great minor hockey associations. The Thunderbirds are always competing, or every couple of years for a national championship. So that's up to how the organization is going to roll that out, but I don't know that for fact.
And Coach French, you were in Colorado, right? Was it with the Thunder?
I was with the Rough Riders.
Oh, Rough Riders.
The Thunderbird was a lot around the ex-NHL players from like Adam Foote, Joe Sakic, and those guys still around them. And, the both Adam Foote's sons playing NHL now, they grow with the Thunderbird. The program to play at Colorado is pretty solid program, like you said, Turner. I think they do well. And then the flip side, Coyotes, I think Nashville Predators now create their own program also now, the junior AAA over there.
Yep.
So,
they had a good year.
Yeah, I think that's good. I have two questions. It's the same question, but question A and B. You've been really, really coached by amazing, great coaches in NHL. They've been, winner of the Hall of Fame and Jack Adams, like Pat Burns 3 times, and you've been a very, really well done by the coaches. But my first, what did you learn from them? First of all, when you play as a hockey player, but now, what did you get from them to carry on this for the rest of your life, and maybe now teaching this to you, the players you have?
Well, I think regardless of their demeanor, like if you like Larry Robinson, for example, is, like I said, anyone who meets Larry for the first time and how much he cares, and he's, I don't want to say a player's coach, he's such a great presence, and but when you look at the whole, I call it the Montreal Canadian way, and it was a way, and I think it got a little sidetracked in the 90s and the 2000s, meaning this whole kind of coaching tree. A lot of it comes, in my opinion, from Jacques Lemaire. Like how when I was playing for the Canadiens, how the Canadiens were a little bit ahead of their time. When I first started, they didn't, hockey didn't take private planes or charter planes, and they took all these different approaches, not for the players to be successful. And when Jacques went to New Jersey with Lou, he kind of took that system with him. Like, we're gonna start flying, commercial. We're gonna give, and I learned this a couple years later, getting to the Devils, that they take away all your excuses. You stay at the best hotels. How it kind of is in the National Hockey League across the board today. You practice, everything is tracked, all these different things to give the players and the team the best advantage to play. And Larry was there as well. And even though Pat was like that when he came, I think that was the system that was kind of put in place. But what they all had in common, as I call it, the early Montreal Canadian way, is even when I was in Montreal, is how they sacrificing yourself or some part of your game. That Pat was a little more upfront with that, more direct, if that's the right word, with those things, but sacrificing the betterment of yourself for the team. And they all taught that, and Jacques taught that. They, like I said, they went about it different ways. Some were hard, some were easy, but even when I had Jacques in the minors in Fredericton, that was the same. That was the same message. They did that. Like, you even look at the team that won the Stanley Cup in '92 with the Canadiens. That wasn't the best team in the league. There was Pittsburgh. There's different teams that lost out. I mean, the best team is talent. And then even the Devils teams that won before I got there, and then the team that I got to play on there, 03, they weren't the best teams on paper, top to bottom. They're good teams. You have to have great teams, and you have to have great goaltending, but they were great teams as far as how close the players were, not necessarily off the ice, but how close we were and how well we played, and how well we were taught to play away and check your ego when you came into the room, and then that rubs off on leadership. So when you have great players. When I first started, was Guy Carbonneau and Kirk Muller. These are great leaders, and again, you look at their stats and all the obviously having Dr. Roy and net, sacrificing for the good of the team, and those are all championship teams. You can say that about any organization that's successful or wins. You have to have those kind of things in place in order to win. And I even look at it in today's game. I looked at the Islanders. Everyone asks me, what Lou's like all the time, and what he's done for the Islanders. They trade away Tavares, who was arguably the best player at the time, and look how great the Islander team is. They have Barzal. They have great players on that team, obviously. But there's a different culture. There's a different expectation, and when you lay out and expect great things, even though you may not be the best team talent-wise, you can accomplish a lot of things based on that. And all those great coaches not just taught myself, but taught all of our players. And I always joke when I do talk with Scotty Gomez about this stuff. He's starting to grow up, and he's older now, and he's not a young kid, and he respects that stuff. He's starting to realize that as an older man, that all those hard lessons that are taught, and those hard lessons are what win championships.
I know we have a lot of other questions. Let's do a quick one. How far do you think the Habs will go in the playoffs? Dan asks.
Well, it just depends on if we can get healthy, and again, that's going to depend. I know the pressure's on them because it always falls on the goalie at the end, and Carey Price is a great Hall of Fame goaltender, but we'll see how it's anyone's game. That's the cool part about the game, the diversity in the game, as far as every team having a chance and someone gets on a hot run. So the Canadiens have as good a chance as anybody.
He's back on the ice this morning, by the way.
Was he? Oh, okay. Who do you think wins the cup?
Who do I think? Well, my kids always joke, but I never go. Like I said, I never go against Sidney Crosby every year. They seem to be in it, and that's a good team. So,
I know.
but also Boston's in there, and I hate the Bruins, obviously, meaning just because of the rivalry, playing in the Boston and Montreal days. But Boston's got a great team as well. So, and then of course, don't count out the Capitals with what they've done the last couple of years. So.
I don't believe in the Capitals at all. I don't. But Coach Frenchie knows. I've been saying for a long time, like I do not like Pittsburgh, but I'm like, let's not discount them. They're annoying and they just keep beating everybody.
Yeah, they just end. They're just there at the end all the time.
They're always there at the end.
Yep.
Who are your best line mates? Yarmo wants to know.
Oh, best. Well, I as far as talent wise, I've had a ton of them. I remember my first game was I got to play wing with Dennis Savard and Kirk Muller. So there's a lot of great players that I've played with. Koivu, Brian Savage. But my first couple of years playing, was more consistent in New Jersey. We had so much depth that their actual fourth line was me, John Madden, and Jay Pandolfo for a long time, and great players, great. Two of the best penalty killers, in my opinion, ever to play. And John Madden's coaching; he's back coaching in the NHL in San Jose this year. And Jay's coaching in Boston still. Like I said, I think those were memorable times, and getting a chance to play with them. Pascal Réaume is another kid that got traded to us in the Devils the year we won, and then I got to play with him, and I and Breland were on the line together all the time when I was healthy. So there's a lot of phenomenal players.
Oh, that's a good mix.
That we play with, yeah.
Sergei Breland was pretty talented, wasn't he? He had a pretty good skill set.
Yeah, sneaky good.
NHL asked, was there any team that you wanted to play for but you weren't able to go? We know you signed in Philadelphia, and unfortunately that wasn't as long as we wanted, but is there anyone else that
no, well, it would have been neat, I think, to play in Vancouver. I wasn't a Canucks fan per se growing up, and I wasn't. I was, like I said, I was a Montreal fan, but just to play in your home province maybe. But no, other than that, like I said, I couldn't have worked out any better for me as playing for my favorite team to start half of my career, and then playing on a winning team that every year you had a chance to win in New Jersey was it couldn't have worked out any better.
I think Justin is the hungriest guy here because he took all your recommendations to go to restaurants like Da Vinci's in Montreal, and he also wants to know what your favorite pregame meal was.
Yeah, I set him up always. So it's always steak and pasta like that. That's the other spoiled part we get is everyone asks what you miss about playing hockey. The best part about playing hockey is game day on the road. It is outstanding. You walk in and the buffet line with steak and fish and chicken and rice and potatoes and just whatever you want laid out. And then at the end of it, 2 huge tubs of one chocolate and one vanilla Haagen-Dazs ice cream with chocolate sauce, and then off to bed you go and get ready for the game. So, but I was always the night before, always steak the night before the game, and then I'd have chicken and pasta right around noon and sleep all afternoon and go play.
Is Wyatt still playing for you?
That was his last year, just finished, so he'll be off to college next year. He graduates high school, and that's it. They're all out of the house.
And you're continuing to coach though after this?
Yeah, no, it keeps me busy. Like I said, with all the activities and doing things, it keeps me involved, which I have to do and stay busy. So it's something I enjoy doing. It's a lot of fun coaching at this level and watching kids move on to the next level. It's a lot of fun.
People may not. Wyatt had some challenges that led up to this, so it's pretty important that he's playing. I'm really happy to see that he was able to continue to play. I don't know if there's anything you want to bring to light there that's important for people to support, or.
Yeah, no, just that's what what truly does change for myself and my wife with that is meaning this is a game, and a lot of it, especially today's kids, the parents get wrapped up in trying to get their kids to the NHL. You see it in Canada all the time with these academies, and it's an expensive sport to play, but this game for not just myself and my wife changed two summers ago with Wyatt, with all the issues he had with Crohn's. He has Crohn's. We didn't know that, and we spent the last 2 summers in hospitals and him having surgeries and all that stuff. And he's come through it great. He has to take care of himself and change his diet and stuff like that for the rest of his life. But it really puts in perspective that this is a game. It truly is. We talk about all the different guys who've made it, who don't make it, and then how we hyper focus on trying to get a Division I scholarship or winning a game this weekend or playing in the NHL, and none of that stuff means anything when stuff like this happens to you. That it's truly is just a hockey game. The game can still teach you great things about life, which it should provide, and being a good teammate, being a leader. But it's nothing compared to that when your health isn't 100%, especially when it's happened to a kid.
I have a couple last questions. You because I really look at your profile, like I know you're coming here, so I study more. But you left home early because you got drafted, and you're one of the rare players. Not many players play at 16 years old, play in the WHL, where that time I believe was one of the best league in Canada compared to WHL and QM. But from that point, you become a little bit more mature, and then you jump on NHL. And when you show up there, you're still 22, 23. Who helping you the most when you show up in NHL? Not Fredericton, but in Montreal, like as a veteran, take care about you, because I really believe that's happening for the rookies. Someone take care about. And what do you remember of that experience?
Yeah, well, and that's why they won. Like, you look at like the teams that have championship caliber guys, and that's like, you look at great guys like you look Mike Keane, Lyle Odeline, Kirk Muller. Like you said, didn't matter who you were, and those things were I tried to pass on and be a part of when I made it to New Jersey's later on. Is inviting guys over for dinner, taking guys out, making them part of the team, so that when you go to battle on the ice, that they feel welcome, and they're gonna sacrifice themselves for you. So all those teams, you look at it, and I try to instill that even with the kids. We're talking here at a young age is making your teammates feel welcome. And not everyone's the same. You don't have to be best friends with them, but once we get into the dressing room, we're all one family, and we have to do things a certain way. So Montreal had phenomenal leadership in that way, and I'm 90% or 95% of all NHL teams do, the ones that they bring kids in and then make them feel part of the family. And the teams that do that the best are the teams that win. That they truly do.
That's awesome.
Was that your two-part question, Frenchie?
I have so many questions, thinking all the time, but
I know, we wanna know.
I'm a life coaching, so for me,
And we'll
what
have
you
to do
said-
part 2. We'll have
We
to do
can.
a follow-up.
That'd be amazing. All right,
No, I
Turner.
really like the fact, like your mindset now, and how it's very important to teaching the kid the right way. What I mean, I coached for many years, and it's all about the human being. At the end of the day, not many of them going to be who you did, what you did, but at the end of the day, it's a relationship you create for them, and to give them the best, to learning them to become a better human being, a great teammate, a better husband, a better great person in life. That's all we can do at the lower level, teaching the kid, because it's only a sport at the end of the day.
And that's what it's all about. Like I said, we're going out in the real world is so hard. It truly is, getting out there and having to get a job and everything. And that's what sports can still teach, even though it's hyper focused and it's a lot of money and everybody wants to be in the NHL. I understand that's awesome to have dreams, but we miss what's in front of us a lot of the times, is the important parts of training and how you work day to day, and going through adversity. That's a lot of the things that kids don't face. Even my own kids to this day, we pamper them a little too much. But that's what the game will teach. Being cut, being kicked off a team, all the things that you need to go through experience, that if you can learn that at 16 and 17, you're going to be much better at 25 and 26.
That's all right. By the way, you won number 30, right?
I started in 30, and then because I was 23 in junior, and until I don't want to say became a regular, Pierre Gervais, who's still the equipment manager, in Montreal. He's, again, how many great men that have come through the Montreal Canadiens, and Jervy's still there, and
Wow.
until that time, and it's still, I don't think anybody wears it now. I know Bellows had it when I started, but that's Bob Gainey's number. And Bob Gainey and Larry Robinson are, as far as the English speaking, they Larry went on to speak French, are two of the most respected English players who ever came through there. So once Bellows left the team, it was kind of off limits.
Really?
And I didn't ask. Oh yeah, like, and even 19. No one, even before Larry, if you go through all the time, Larry's number wasn't retired. No one wears 19 in Montreal. No one has ever wore number 19. It's Jerv, basically. It's not hanging in the rafters. It's retired. Don't even ask for it. So no one did.
Yeah, that makes
and same kind of with 23. So then one day he knew that I wore it in junior and wore it, and this is after Bellows left for you. He goes, "Do you want to change to 23?" I said, "Yep." So I changed to 23, and that's how I got 23. That was my
Amazing
number junior all
because
the time.
23 was Bob Gainey.
Yeah.
Remember? I was laughing because when I see really, I listen, I watch you all the time, but you little bit what not Chris Nyland did, but Nyland was wearing number 30, and your
Yep.
reputation, he was a hard, tough guy, right? And I said, oh, maybe he liked Chris Nyland.
Well, and I love Chris Nyland. I think I got to meet him when I first started wearing it. He did a lot in that number as well, but it wasn't word. I just basically, back then they gave you the number, you just wore whatever. When, again, I'm not picky. I'm happy to make the NHL. You can put whatever number you want on me, and I'm playing. So that was part of it. So I didn't change because I didn't like Chris Nyland. Chris Nyland was a phenomenal Montreal Canadian. What he did there's a great example of what a guy doing whatever he could for his teammates. So
It was amazing. I met him a lot of time on the East Coast Hockey League. He was coaching many years over there, and just a great man, a great human being. Now he's back in Montreal, does all kind of stuff online.
he does
Everything like
stuff
that.
on the
Like
radio.
a
Yep.
great human being. But what I'm going to remember, Turner, here for the last, you have so many great nuggets. But one thing you said, I hate the Boston Bruins, and as a Montreal fan, that's what we like to hear.
I don't want to see any of those teams win. Let's get Colorado or even Vegas at this point. I don't know if I want to see Vegas win, to be honest with you, but Colorado would be interesting to me.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes in the playoffs.
It's gonna be tough. There's some really crazy teams. The Taylor Hall trade seems to really be working out for Boston, but
I picked Colorado at the beginning of the season, but I will say to you, just be careful. The Carolina Hurricanes are going to maybe
you're right.
surprise everybody.
I don't know if you know Rod Brindamore. Did you play with him in Philly, or no? He was gone by then.
No, he was gone. Just played against him. Great job. Yeah. He's doing a phenomenal job.
Phenomenal. Like they play the way he played.
Yep.
Like, they have lots of talent and they're super deep, but I think that's the thing that people lose is the way he played was like very dogged and two-way, and that's an underrated coach. Like, who won Coach of the Year last year, Frenchie? I can't remember.
In NHL?
Yeah. I can't remember, but I mean, he's got to be in the mix. It was probably Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz has been great lately. So.
Possible.
Yeah.
By the way, Turner, I know you, because I know you're 48 right now. Are you still inspired, or do you have some goal to be higher coaching, to go maybe in NHL or American Hockey League, or you really look like established already in Seattle? Is this someone you maybe would like to work with a Kraken, something like that, or do you have any inspiration or something like that?
I get that all the time. Whether now that my last son is going out, I wasn't going to do that. Based on being away all the time, being a pro player, as I see, you lose a lot of family time, obviously there. So that wasn't a goal of mine. I stayed locally here and was able to do with the Thunderbirds, do what I'm doing now because I'm in charge of my time. So if that's something that comes out now, or I feel like doing it now that my youngest son is going off to college this year, then I don't close the door on that. I like I said, I love coaching. I love the aspects of the game. The toughest part is people, and I try tell players this as well is tell the players this is you have to have a lot of respect for these leagues we're talking about. Like, to be a junior coach, to coach the American League, to coach in the NHL, there's limited jobs in the world there. There's, the 30 team, there's 23 in junior. There's a lot of great coaches, a lot of great guys who put in a lot of time in order to get those positions. So I have and doing that at junior for a couple of years, I want to say the lack of respect, but there's not a lot of respect for, hey, I'm just going to all of a sudden, because I used to play or you've done these things, that some NHL team's going to hand you out a job. You have to put in your time. You have to be good at what you do, just like any other company, but it just can't be a quick switch or a quick that yeah, I'm going to become this coach because that's what I want to do now. So I respect those positions. I understand how hard it is to work at pro. It's amazing. And you ask any former player who used to do it, who actually does coach in the NHL or did, the amount of preparation and time it requires before the players get into the rink, and then when the players leave, it is tremendous. That's why coaches aren't healthy. A lot of times they have health issues and everything, and that's not just hockey, that's any sport. So those are things that you have to weigh as a person, if that fits into your life at that time. But to do it just willy-nilly and say you're going to do it and not respect the time that it's going to take to do that, would be a disservice to what you believe in as being a coach.
I thought you were going to talk about for a second how difficult people were. They were the difficult part as opposed to players.
Well, at the higher level, and when you get to the NHL, it's not really, because it's a job now. So it's not really, you either do it as a player or you don't. We'll get someone else. So there's not really a difficulty like it is coaching youth sports or junior, where you're, I don't want to say stuck with the player you are for the year. Whereas the National Hockey League, that's why it's so hard to make it, and it's even harder to stay, is because I always have a great saying. I learned this one a long time. Players love making their money, but the coaches love to make money more. And they're going to do whatever it takes or whoever they put out to keep their job. And that's why a lot of guys fail.
That makes a lot of sense.
On the flip side, Turner, like you said earlier, those players have now nutrition, everything like that. Now the team has so many coaches. Like you didn't have that time. The coaches they have right now, the power skating coach and everything like that. And then it's the tools they improve now with videos and the analytic, everything like that. That's crazy now how this is so much, like you said, it's a Formula One right now, 10 times better what it was when you play in 90s.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they're just trying to give you every advantage, which is good. I think a lot of it is fluff, in my opinion. I think a lot of it gives people jobs because it doesn't still take away from the human instinct of having to play. But what they're really trying to do is give the player the most information they can for success. It's bound to give that player the best opportunity to succeed.
It is hard for me to deny the reality that players now, even from 10 years ago, are so much more skilled. Like the emphasis on that, I think it's definitely paying dividends. I mean, you can see. So I do have to admit, like specialized training, focus on skill has really paid off for us as just even as fans, but as coaches too. Like the opportunity to find players that can play at a really high level is pretty impressive now. Turner, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We got lots of calls for you to come back. So please, if you're interested, we would love to have you back.
Yeah, you guys let me know. I'm always good. That's the tough part, is an hour goes by quick.
We skip over 3 hours. We're okay with that.
There's so many stories.
Well, what we'd like to do actually is like, all right, so if there's one really like gangster, top of the notch guy that you could invite to be a guest here at Hockey Nation, who would you introduce us to, and who can we get on?
Oh, let me. I'll do my homework. I'll think about that. There's so many good ones, but I'll think like even someone like Scott Gomez, I know who would get on here, because Scott does his own kind of podcast stuff. But he's a little kid, and he does a good job, and he does a good job with his stories, and he does a lot of good things, and he remembers he's had such a great career and good experience. So let's see if we can maybe hit him up one day.
That would be great. It would be great to have you and Scott Gomez on at the same time. Actually, that'd be a lot of fun.
And then there's other. Yeah, we can be the two old guys on the Muppet Show up in the corner booth.
I know one. He's really successful is Brian Savage. in Arizona. He did very well with it after
Very,
that.
yep,
You know what I mean?
yep.
He
Another
does very
great
well
friend.
with it.
His kids are. He's got some of the top. His young sons are actually some of the top U.S. players playing on the development team and playing in college. So yeah, another great teammate. So they said there's options. We'll hit you up. I'll do my homework.
We drafted Ryan, didn't we?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we drafted Ryan, but then didn't he go to like Salzburg or
He's
something? He
my
went.
yeah, and then he went over to the Europe. That's so that Red Bull thing is minor hockey, but he's playing in Miami, Ohio. That's Brian's alma mater. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, he could shoot the puck. He
yeah,
was
he's a good player.
99.
Yeah.
I want to say he was a 99 or a 2000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Turner, thanks so much. Let's we'll follow up with
fellas.
you, Gomez, and let's get both of you guys on. That would be a lot of fun. Pierre, do you have any last thing?
Guys.
No, you know, as a fan first, I was excited to see you this morning, but at the end of the day, you know, you send us too many great nuggets for me. It's about relationships, about, you know, become a great human being. So thanks for your time, first of all. Thank you so much for everything. We appreciate you a lot, and hopefully see you again very soon. So thanks again, Turner.
All right, guys. Have a great one.
Yep. Thank you.